Captain Reina Torres stood at the command center of the Orbital Defense Station Aegis, her dark eyes fixed on the mysterious blip that had just appeared on their long-range scanners. After 15 years of service in the Earth Defense Force, she had learned to trust her instincts, and something about this signal felt different from the usual space debris or satellite activity they monitored. "Lieutenant Park, can you get a better read on that signature?" she asked, leaning forward to study the holographic display. The young officer's fingers danced across his console, adjusting parameters and enhancing the scan resolution. "Ma'am, it's like nothing we've seen before," Park reported, his voice tight with concentration. "The energy signature is completely alien, but it appears to be damaged. There are radiation patterns consistent with a failing propulsion system." Reina felt her pulse quicken. First contact. After years of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, the answer might be hurtling toward Earth in a damaged vessel. She keyed her comm link to Earth Defense Command. "Command, this is Captain Torres. We have an unidentified vessel approaching Earth orbit. Energy signatures confirm non-terrestrial origin. Vessel appears to be damaged and on an uncontrolled trajectory. Requesting instructions." The response came quickly. "Captain Torres, maintain observation. Do not engage unless the vessel poses a direct threat. A response team is being assembled." Reina watched as the mysterious ship drew closer. Its movements were erratic, trailing a visible stream of plasma that painted an unstable path through space. The vessel's design was elegant but alien, all smooth curves and iridescent surfaces that seemed to shift color as it tumbled through the void. "Captain." Park's voice cut through her observations. "The vessel's trajectory has shifted. It's going to enter atmosphere over the Pacific in approximately 12 minutes. Reina's training kicked in. An uncontrolled atmospheric entry could result in devastating casualties if the ship broke up over populated areas. She had to make a decision. "Launch intercept drones," she ordered. "Program them to establish a gravitational net. We need to stabilize that ship's descent." Her crew moved with practiced efficiency, launching a squadron of autonomous drones. The sleek machines surrounded the alien vessel, generating a synchronized gravitational field that slowly brought its wild spin under control. "Direct the descent toward the Mariana territory," Reina commanded. "That's our best shot at a controlled water landing." The next 10 minutes were tense as they guided the damaged ship through Earth's atmosphere. The vessel's hull glowed hot but held together, its alien materials proving remarkably resilient to the stresses of re-entry. As the ship approached the ocean surface, Reina ordered the nearest naval vessels to converge on the landing zone. Whatever, or whoever, was aboard that ship would need immediate assistance. The alien vessel hit the water with surprising grace, its design apparently capable of marine landing. As it settled on the waves, Reina received new orders from command. "Captain Torres, you are to lead the first contact team. Your experience with the intercept makes you our best option for establishing peaceful communication. A transport is preparing for your departure." Reina felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as she prepared for the mission. Her team assembled quickly: Dr. Olivia Santos, their xenobiologist, Technical Sergeant Raj Patel, their systems specialist, and a squad of special operations personnel led by Commander David Walsh. As their transport descended toward the floating alien ship, Reina studied the vessel more closely. Its hull bore signs of weapons damage. This hadn't been an accident. The ship had been fleeing from something. "Life signs detected," Dr. Santos reported, studying her handheld scanner. "One occupant, vital signs irregular but present. Atmosphere inside the vessel appears compatible with human respiration." Their transport landed on the specially designed marine platform that had been quickly assembled around the alien ship. Reina led her team toward the vessel's sealed entrance, her heart pounding with each step. "Look for any signs or symbols that might indicate a door mechanism," she instructed. Before they could begin their search, a section of the hull simply dissolved, creating an opening. Inside, they found their first extraterrestrial visitor. The alien was humanoid but clearly not human, tall and slender, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with bioluminescent patterns. It lay injured in what appeared to be the pilot's chamber, surrounded by displays showing incomprehensible symbols. The alien's eyes opened, 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern, and fixed upon Reyna. Instead of fear, she saw something unexpected in those strange eyes: hope. "Help, please," the alien spoke in halting English, much to everyone's shock. "Others, coming. Earth, danger." As medics rushed forward to assist the injured alien, Reyna realized that this wasn't just first contact, it was a warning. Whatever had attacked this ship might be heading toward Earth next, and humanity needed to be ready. She opened her comm link to command. "This is Captain Torres. First contact established. But sir, we may have a situation developing. The alien visitor brings warning of a possible threat to Earth." As she watched Dr. Santos work to stabilize their unexpected guest, Reyna knew that everything was about to change. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, but their first alien encounter came with an ominous warning. The real question was, were they ready for what came next? The medical bay of the Pacific Defense Complex hummed with activity as Dr. Olivia Santos studied the readings from their extraordinary patient. The alien, who had introduced himself as Zenvox, lay on a specially designed containment bed, his silvery skin pulsing with weak bioluminescent patterns. Captain Torres stood nearby, watching as Dr. Santos adjusted the atmospheric settings in the room to better match the alien's needs. The changes had an immediate effect. Zenvox's vital signs stabilized, and the painful wheezing in his breathing eased. "Your understanding of xenobiology is impressive," Zenvox commented, his voice carrying an ethereal quality that seemed to echo slightly in their minds. "Most species would have quarantined me in conditions that would have proved fatal. We've been preparing for extraterrestrial contact for decades," Dr. Santos replied, carefully monitoring his recovery. "Though I admit, your physiological structure is fascinating. Your cellular regeneration rate is remarkable." Reyna stepped forward, knowing they needed answers. "Zenvox, you mentioned others were coming. We need to know what we're facing." The alien's 4 eyes seemed to dim slightly, patterns of distress rippling across his skin. "They are called the Nexus. A collective of conquered species bound together by force, controlled by the Archons." He paused, gathering strength. "I was their lead researcher in bioweapons development." The revelation sent a chill through the room. Technical Sergeant Patel, who had been working on decoding the alien ship's database, looked up from his console with concern. "I refused to complete the weapon they demanded," Zenvox continued. "A virus designed to target specific genetic markers. They wanted to use it on worlds that resisted integration into their collective. When I learned the truth about their plans, I destroyed my research and fled." Commander Walsh, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. "And they followed you here? To Earth?" "Not intentionally," Zenvox explained. "Your world was simply the closest habitable planet when my ship's systems began to fail. But now that they know of your existence..." His skin rippled with patterns that Dr. Santos' translator interpreted as deep concern. Reyna understood the implications. "They'll come here next." "Yes," Zenvox confirmed. "The Archons view any technologically advancing species as either a resource to be harvested or a threat to be eliminated. Your world has already been detected. They will come." Dr. Santos' instruments suddenly beeped in alarm. His neural activity is spiking. He needs rest. But Zenvox reached out, grabbing Reyna's arm with surprising strength. "There's more. The data cores in my ship, they contain everything. Defense protocols, ship specifications, weapon schematics. Everything your people will need." Sergeant Patel spoke up from his station. "Captain, I've managed to decrypt some of the ship's data." "He's right, this is a goldmine of tactical information about these Nexus forces." "Why?" Reyna asked the alien. Why help us? Zenvox's skin displayed patterns of what seemed like determination mixed with regret. Because I've seen too many worlds fall to the Archons. Too many species enslaved or destroyed. Your people showed me kindness when you could have responded with fear. You tried to help without knowing who or what I was. His eyes fixed on Reyna. Perhaps humanity can succeed where others failed. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the complex. Sergeant Patel's console lit up with urgent data. Captain. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple gravitational distortions at the edge of the solar system. Ships are emerging, massive ones. The Nexus, Zenvox confirmed, trying to rise despite his injuries. They've found me faster than I anticipated. Captain Torres, you must understand, these aren't simple warships. The Archons convert entire moons into mobile fortresses. What's coming? His voice trailed off as exhaustion overtook him. Dr. Santos quickly administered a stabilizing treatment. He needs time to recover, Captain. His body is still healing from the crash. Reyna nodded, her mind racing with the implications of everything they'd learned. She opened a secure channel to Earth Defense Command. Command, this is Captain Torres. We have a situation. First Contact has evolved into a potential planetary defense scenario. Requesting immediate activation of all Earth Defense Force assets and emergency council of all major military powers. As she waited for a response, Reyna looked at the alien who had risked everything to warn them. Humanity had dreamed of First Contact for generations, but no one had imagined it would come like this, with a desperate refugee bearing warnings of an impending invasion. Commander Walsh moved closer, speaking quietly. What are your orders, Captain? Reyna straightened, her decision made. Prepare our defenses. Download every bit of tactical data from that ship. And get our best minds working on implementing any technology we can use. She looked at Zenvox's unconscious form. We're not just fighting for Earth now. We're fighting for every species that's fallen to these Archons. The complex burst into activity as orders were relayed and emergency protocols activated. Humanity had less than a week to prepare for an enemy they'd never known existed. But they had one advantage, an ally who knew the enemy's weaknesses, and the determination to use that knowledge to protect their world. The underground war room of the Pacific Defense Complex buzzed with nervous energy as military leaders from around the world gathered to review the situation. Holographic displays showed the approaching Nexus fleet, 12 massive vessels that had once been moons, now converted into mobile fortresses of incomprehensible power. Captain Torres watched as Zenvox, now recovered enough to stand, manipulated the holographic display with graceful gestures. His silvery skin had regained its healthy luminescence, patterns of light flowing across his form as he spoke. The Archon's greatest weakness is their pride, he explained, zooming in on one of the moonships. They believe their technology makes them invincible. But their ships, despite their size, have vulnerable points. The hologram highlighted specific areas on the vessel's surface. General Diana Rodriguez, commander of the United Earth Defense Forces, studied the display intently. These structures here, they look like heat sinks. Correct, Zenvox confirmed. The energy required to move converted moons is enormous. Without these cooling systems, their cores would melt down. His skin flickered with patterns that Dr. Santos' translator interpreted as grim satisfaction. I helped design these systems. I also know how to overload them. Sergeant Patel, who had been working non-stop on integrating the alien technology with Earth's defense systems, looked up from his terminal. Captain, we've successfully adapted the shield frequency data from Zenvox's ship. Our weapons should now be able to penetrate their defensive barriers. But before anyone could respond, Dr. Santos burst into the room, her face pale with urgency. Captain. Everyone. You need to see this. She quickly connected her tablet to the main display, showing a complex molecular diagram. I've been analyzing the biological samples from Zenvox's ship, trying to understand what kind of weapon the Nexus wanted him to create. The alien scientist's skin darkened with what they had learned to recognize as shame. I should have told you sooner. The weapon wasn't just designed to target specific species. It was designed to rewrite DNA, Dr. Santos finished. It's not a simple bioweapon, it's a forced evolution virus. The Nexus doesn't just want to conquer species, they want to transform them. Reyna felt her blood run cold. Transform them into what? Zenvox's 4 eyes closed briefly in pain. Into them. The Archons aren't a species, they're what remains of the first race the Nexus transformed. They believe forced evolution is the next step for all intelligent life. Those who survive the process become new Archons. Those who don't. That's why you ran, Commander Walsh realized. You weren't just preventing a massacre, you were preventing an extinction event. The Archons see themselves as gods, Zenvox explained, his voice heavy with emotion. They believe they're saving species from their own evolutionary limitations. But the process drives most mad. Those who survive lose everything that made them unique. Their culture, their identity, their free will, all replaced with the singular drive to expand the Nexus. General Rodriguez straightened, her decision clear. Then we have no choice. We fight. Captain Torres, what's the status of the planetary defense grid? Reyna brought up a new display showing Earth's orbital platforms. We've upgraded 60% of our satellites with the new shield penetration technology. Ground-based defense installations are at 80% adaptation. But... She hesitated. Speak freely, Captain, the General ordered. The Nexus ships are still too powerful. Even with our upgraded weapons, we're looking at minimal damage. We need something more. Zenvox stepped forward, his skin pulsing with what they now recognized as determination. There might be a way. In my ship's database, there are plans for a device, a resonance cascade initiator. If we could build it and plant it on one of their main vessels, it would trigger a chain reaction through their linked cooling systems, Sergeant Patel finished, quickly analyzing the data. The entire fleet would be crippled. A suicide mission, Commander Walsh noted grimly. No, Reyna countered, an idea forming. Not if we use the stealth technology from Zenvox's ship. We've already proven we can adapt their tech to our systems. If we can modify one of our smaller vessels. The room erupted in tactical discussions as hope began to replace despair. But Zenvox pulled Reyna aside, his skin displaying patterns of concern. Captain, there's something else you should know, he said quietly. The Archons, they're not just coming for Earth. They're coming for me. The data I stole, the research I destroyed, it's not just about the weapon. I found evidence that the process driving the Archon's transformation can be reversed. Reyna's eyes widened. You mean? Yes. There might be a way to save them, to restore their original forms and free will. That's why they're sending such a large fleet. They're not just afraid of losing a weapon, they're afraid of losing control of their entire empire. As alarms suddenly blared throughout the complex, announcing that the Nexus fleet had crossed Saturn's orbit, Reyna realized they weren't just fighting for Earth's survival anymore. They were fighting for the freedom of countless enslaved species across the galaxy. The next few days would determine not just humanity's fate, but potentially the fate of all intelligent life in the galaxy. And somehow, humanity had found itself at the center of this cosmic struggle for freedom. The orbital shipyard above Earth bustled with frantic activity as engineers worked to modify the stealth vessel designated Shadow Strike. Captain Torres watched through the observation deck as workers integrated the alien technology from Zenvox's ship into the sleek craft that would carry their desperate mission into the heart of the Nexus fleet. The resonance cascade initiator is ready, Sergeant Patel reported, his eyes red from days without sleep. We've managed to miniaturize it using some of the quantum compression techniques from Zenvox's database. But Captain. He hesitated, glancing at the diagnostic readings. The power requirements are massive. Once activated, the ship will have less than 10 minutes to clear the blast radius. Reyna nodded grimly. Then we'll have to be fast. What's the status of the stealth systems? That's where it gets complicated, Dr. Santos interrupted, joining them with a tablet full of data. The cloaking technology works by bending light and energy around the ship, but the initiator generates so much power that it creates a detectable signature. We can hide from their sensors, or we can activate the device, but not both at the same time. Commander Walsh stepped forward, his face tight with concern. So whoever pilots that ship is flying in blind and exposed at the most critical moment. It really is a suicide mission. No, Zenvox's voice echoed from behind them. The alien scientist approached, his skin rippling with complex patterns of determination and what they'd come to recognize as hope. Not if I go with them. I can interface directly with their systems, create a temporary blind spot in their defense grid. A window of opportunity. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. General Rodriguez's voice came over the comm system, all personnel to battle stations. The Nexus fleet has accelerated. They'll reach Earth orbit in 6 hours. The observation deck erupted into motion as officers rushed to their posts. But Reyna noticed something strange in Zenvox's reaction, a flicker of recognition in his 4 eyes, a pattern of light across his skin that the translators hadn't seen before. You knew they would do this, she said quietly, pulling him aside. What aren't you telling us? The alien scientist's skin dimmed slightly. The Archons, they're not just coming to stop me or conquer Earth. They're desperate. The transformation process that created them, it's becoming unstable. Without my research to perfect it, their entire species faces genetic collapse within a generation. They need Earth's genetic diversity to survive. And you waited until now to tell us this? Commander Walsh demanded, overhearing. Because it changes nothing, Zenvox responded, his voice firm. Whether they're driven by conquest or survival, they still plan to transform your entire species against their will. The only difference is that now they'll move faster, take bigger risks. They're running out of time. Dr. Santos looked up from her readings, her face pale. The fleet's energy signatures are off the charts. They're charging their main weapons. Reyna made her decision. Then we launch now. We can't wait for them to reach Earth orbit. Sergeant Patel, is the Shadow Strike ready? As ready as it'll ever be, Captain. But the mission profile was based on having 6 more hours of preparation. The targeting systems aren't fully calibrated, the stealth systems are running at 90% efficiency at best, and it will have to be enough, Reyna cut him off. Commander Walsh, begin the evacuation of all non-essential personnel from orbital facilities. Dr. Santos, coordinate with ground control to activate the planetary shield grid. General Rodriguez needs to know we're launching early. As the team rushed to comply with her orders, Zenvox placed a hand on her shoulder. Captain Torres, there's one more thing you need to know. The reason I chose to help Earth wasn't just because of your kindness. Your species, humans, you have something unique. A genetic resilience I've never seen before. If any species could survive the transformation process with their free will intact, it would be yours. That's what truly terrifies the Archons. Reyna processed this revelation as she watched the massive Nexus ships approaching on the long-range scanners. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. But now she understood, they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the right to remain human. Prepare the Shadow Strike for immediate launch, she ordered. I'll pilot it myself. Captain, Commander Walsh protested, you're too valuable to. This isn't about rank anymore, Reyna cut him off. This is about having the best chance of success. I've studied their tactical data more than anyone else, and with Zenvox's help, I have the best chance of reaching the target. As the crew rushed to prepare for the mission, Reyna took one last look at Earth shining below. 6 hours until the Nexus fleet arrived. 6 hours to save not just humanity, but perhaps the entire galaxy from a fate worse than death. The Shadow Strike waited in its launch bay, loaded with humanity's hopes and an alien device that could change the course of history. The next few hours would determine everything. And as Reyna prepared for what might be her final mission, she realized that this crisis had done something unprecedented. It had united humanity with their first alien ally in a desperate bid for freedom. Whatever happened next would echo across the stars for generations to come. The Shadow Strike sliced through space like a phantom, its modified stealth systems making it nearly invisible against the star-filled backdrop. In the cockpit, Captain Reyna Torres and Zenvox worked in tense silence, monitoring their approach to the massive Nexus fleet. The alien ships loomed ahead like artificial moons, their surfaces gleaming with otherworldly energy. Energy spike detected, Reyna reported, watching the readings climb. They're charging their main weapons. As expected, Zenvox replied, his silvery skin pulsing with concentrated patterns. The Archons always open with a show of force. They believe it encourages surrender. Behind them, Earth's defensive grid sparked to life, creating a shimmering barrier around the planet. But everyone knew it wouldn't hold for long against the Nexus fleet's full power. We're approaching the designated insertion point, Reyna announced, her hands steady on the controls despite the gravity of their mission. Ready to begin the approach vector. Suddenly, their communications crackled to life. A deep, resonating voice filled the cockpit, but it wasn't speaking English. Zenvox's skin flickered with recognition. The Archon Supreme, he translated, his voice tight. They're broadcasting to Earth. The message continued, now in English, people of Earth, we bring evolution. Surrender now, and your transformation will be painless. Resist, and you will still change, but the process will bring agony beyond imagination. Reyna kept the ship on course, using the broadcast as cover to slip closer to the fleet. They don't know about the reversal process you discovered, do they? No, Zenvox confirmed. If they did. His skin rippled with complex emotions. Captain, there's something else. The genetic collapse I mentioned, it's already begun. Look. He brought up a sensor display showing the interior of the nearest moonship. Thousands of life signs flickered erratically, their patterns unstable. They're dying, Reyna realized. That's why they're rushing this attack. Yes. But it doesn't excuse what they're doing. They'd rather force their fate on others than face their own extinction. The Shadow Strike glided between two massive vessels, their stealth systems straining to maintain invisibility. They were almost within range of their target, the flagship of the Nexus fleet. Suddenly, alarms blared. They've detected us. Reyna yanked the controls, narrowly avoiding a beam of energy that sliced through their previous position. Activating interface now, Zenvox pressed his hands against the console, his skin blazing with light as he connected directly with the Nexus systems. I can give you a window, but it won't last long. The ship rocked as defensive fire intensified around them. Reyna pushed the engines to their limit, diving toward their target while Zenvox fought an electronic battle to keep them alive. 30 seconds to target, she announced. Initiating deployment sequence. The resonance cascade initiator hummed to life in the ship's hold. Once deployed, it would trigger a chain reaction through the Nexus fleet's cooling systems, disrupting their power cores and leaving them helpless. But as they approached their target, something unexpected happened. The Archon Supreme's voice returned, but this time it was different, desperate, almost pleading. Zenvox, we detect your presence. You know what's happening to us. Help us survive. Please. For a moment, Zenvox's patterns showed conflict. Then he spoke, not just to the Archons but to all listening channels, there is another way. I've found it, the key to reversing the transformation. You can be yourselves again. Stop this attack, and I will help you. Silence filled the communications. The defensive fire slackened slightly. Then multiple voices responded, not just the Supreme, but others. Some demanded surrender, others begged for help, and still others called for their destruction. They're fracturing, Zenvox explained. The collective is breaking down. Some want to accept my offer, others. A massive energy beam lanced out from one of the moon ships, striking another. The Nexus fleet was turning on itself. Now! Reyna shouted, diving the shadow strike toward their target. Deploy the initiator. The device launched, streaking toward the flagship's cooling systems. But instead of the expected explosion, it emitted a pulse of energy that spread through the fleet like a wave. What did you do? Reyna demanded, watching as the massive ships started powering down. I modified the device, Zenvox admitted. Instead of destroying their cooling systems, it's forcing them into safety shutdown. They're trapped, but alive. Those who want help can receive it. Those who don't will face justice, Reyna finished, understanding. You're giving them a choice. The next few hours were chaos as the Nexus fleet hung powerless in space. Earth's forces moved in, supported by Zenvox's technical knowledge, securing the vessels one by one. Some Archons surrendered immediately, desperate for the cure he offered. Others fought to the end, preferring death to the loss of their perceived godhood. 1 week later, Reyna stood in the United Earth Council chamber as history was made. Representatives from Earth signed the first interstellar peace accord with the reformed Nexus survivors. Zenvox, now Earth's official ambassador to the stars, led the proceedings. Today marks not just peace, he announced, his skin glowing with joy, but the beginning of true cooperation between our peoples. Earth has proven that strength lies not in forcing change, but in offering choice. In showing mercy even to those who would show none. This is why I chose to help humanity, not because you were strong, but because you were kind. Reyna watched as human and alien representatives mingled, sharing knowledge and hope for the future. The stars had brought them both terror and friendship, but in the end, it was humanity's capacity for compassion that had won the day. As she looked to the sky that night, Reyna knew that everything had changed. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and humanity had proven itself ready for the challenges ahead. The bridge between worlds had been built not through force or fear, but through understanding and hope. The Nexus threat was over, but humanity's journey to the stars was just beginning. Bridge between worlds. Dr. Olivia Santos walked through the sprawling complex of the Interstellar Conservation Center, pride swelling in her chest as she observed the fruits of a decade's labor. What had started as a controversial experiment had blossomed into the galaxy's premier facility for interspecies cooperation and understanding. The massive biodomes stretched across the terraformed moon's surface, each carefully designed to house different species from across the cosmos. But unlike traditional zoos or research facilities, the ICC operated on a revolutionary principle: voluntary participation and mutual benefit. The mist dancers are ready for their session, her assistant Ren announced, their bioluminescent tentacles rippling with excitement. The alien intern had been skeptical when first arriving, but now moved through the facility with the same quiet confidence as the human staff. Olivia made her way to the ethereal dome where the mist dancers, gaseous beings from the Carina Nebula, swirled in intricate patterns. Beside their enclosure, a group of Earth's bottlenose dolphins floated in a specialized tank, their clicks and whistles echoing through the chamber. Begin translation protocols, Olivia instructed, activating the sophisticated communication array she had developed. The system didn't just translate language, it interpreted intentions, emotions, and cultural context across species barriers. The dolphins and mist dancers had formed an unexpected bond, their methods of navigation through their respective mediums surprisingly similar. Together, they were helping develop new approaches to space travel, combining the dolphins' understanding of echolocation with the mist dancers' natural ability to ride solar winds. Dr. Santos, called Dr. Kveth, a mantis-like xenobiologist. The Earth Wolves have made another breakthrough with the Shadow Stalkers from Proxima Centauri. Their pack dynamics are remarkably compatible. Olivia followed him to another observation area, where Earth Wolves and the shadowy, six-legged stalkers were engaged in a coordinated hunting exercise. The two species had learned to work together, combining the wolves' strategic thinking with the stalkers' phase-shifting abilities. "Record everything," she instructed. This could revolutionize search and rescue operations across challenging terrains. Throughout the facility, similar partnerships were developing. Earth's ravens worked with crystalline beings to develop new communication networks. Octopi collaborated with shape-shifting entities to advance understanding of adaptive biology. Even the great apes had found kindred spirits in a species of gentle giants from the Andromeda Galaxy. "The Galactic Council's annual review team has arrived," Wren announced, interrupting Olivia's observations. The review team, composed of representatives from various spacefaring civilizations, moved through the facility with increasing amazement. They watched as Earth creatures and alien species cooperated in ways that defied conventional scientific understanding. "This is beyond what we imagined possible," the lead reviewer admitted. "When humans first proposed this facility, many thought it was a naive dream. But you've created something unprecedented, a true bridge between worlds." Olivia led them to her pride and joy, the nursery. Here, young creatures from across the galaxy learned together, forming bonds that would last lifetimes. A baby elephant gently played with a young energy being, while tiger cubs and alien cubs engaged in mock battles under their mother's watchful eyes. "This is humanity's gift to the galaxy," Olivia explained. "We're not just preserving species or conducting research. We're creating understanding. Each creature here, whether from Earth or the farthest reaches of space, has something to teach and something to learn." The facility had become more than a research center, it was a symbol of hope. Species that had once been considered too dangerous or too alien to approach were now valued partners in the grand experiment of interstellar cooperation. As the day drew to a close, Olivia stood in the central observation dome, watching the sunset paint the biodomes in golden light. Around her, the sounds of countless species, chirps, growls, whistles, and songs she had no names for, merged into a symphony of life. "We did it," she whispered to herself, thinking of all those who had said it was impossible. Humanity had taken their special gift for connecting with other species and turned it into something that transcended planetary boundaries. They had proven that understanding and cooperation could bridge even the vast gaps between the stars. The Interstellar Conservation Center stood as testament to humanity's unique place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or even peacekeepers, but as bridges between worlds, species, and ways of being that had never before found common ground.